Say bye to the stars and the stripes, lover. Fly east half a day and all night, lover. Don't come to me and say you wanna fight the charges. Go to the motherland soon as you get indicted, partner. They won't even know you gone to the pre-trial conference. It's on hard, but what don't kill you always make you stronger.
I feel like it's time for us to go away from here, you know what I mean? I've been thinking about it for a long time.
Well, what we got?
Let's go to Africa.
Shit, nigga, please, be for real.
Yo, I've never been more serious in my life. I mean, we've been to the islands, we've been everywhere. Who says we can't go to Africa?
I don't know. Africa's far.
So what? I'm saying, just think about us. That's all we ever talk about. That's our dream, to go to our homeland, where our roots are. Fuck it, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, forget about money. Fuck everything. It's a chance of a lifetime. If me and you went, and the baby, yo, just think. Maybe it's the right thing to do, maybe not.
Well, I'll think about it.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another unlawful arrest prevention video. On this channel, we typically watch footage of police violating people's constitutional rights in order to educate ourselves on the tactics cops use to unlawfully arrest or search black people. Videos of police misconduct are an educational tool we use to develop strategies for how to respond, to get false charges dropped, and put yourself in the position to bring a successful lawsuit. Instead of watching police interactions, today we are going to cover some philosophical topics. This video consists of two main themes, and I suggest you watch until the end, as I guarantee that if you really listen to what I'm about to break down for you, it will permanently change your perspective on life. Now, you never know when the police might try to violate your rights. So the first theme is the importance of always putting yourself in an advantageous position to bring a police misconduct lawsuit. Then we'll take a look at the vast economic opportunity this practice could provide for the black community in America. In other words, there is a lot of money to be taken from police budgets as long as the cops continue to target black people. The second theme deals with what to do if you in fact win a civil suit against the police and receive a check for hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. I will explain why later, but the first thing you should do is get a passport. Alright, without any further delay, let's get into this discussion. Now, I'm originally from Brooklyn, so we are going to use New York as an example here. Different graphs show different amounts because there are different ways to measure police budgets. Some studies don't count certain categories of expenditure in the final police budget number. According to this graph, the NYPD itself gets at least $5 billion a year. But if you look at data that more holistically accounts for the expenses associated with policing, the NYPD yearly budget is closer to $11 billion a year. On this site here, you can see a breakdown of what that money typically goes to. As you can see, legal settlements paid out for misconduct represent only $230 million, or about 2% of that $11 billion number. Now, my reason for showing this data is as follows. I've never ever argued for defunding the police. I do not believe that the movement to defund the police is the strategic position for black people to take. Rather, I suggest that this is the way we look at it instead. Don't defund the police, but also fund me like you fund them. In other words, if the police get billions of dollars in funding annually, then at least give hundreds of millions of dollars to black people every year for having to put up with the stupid ways that police are behaving towards them. Now take a look at this Washington Post article because it illustrates what I am going to say next. Some people, and many victims of police misconduct, mistakenly think that it is too difficult or nearly impossible to actually win financial damages from a lawsuit against the police. This simply isn't true. In fact, police pay an extraordinary amount of money each year in pre-trial settlements. The reason being that, as long as the police department settles with the victim before trial, they don't need to admit wrongdoing, therefore don't need to fire the officer in question, and can avoid bad publicity. As a result, They are sometimes eager to pay settlements to victims at an early stage in the lawsuit process. Let's actually look at some proof. I've linked this article in the description so you can check it out for yourself later, but here we go. Let's start with New York City, just since that's where I'm from. Between 2010 and 2020, New York paid $1.779 billion to victims to settle lawsuits involving allegations of police misconduct. If you click View by Payments and then scroll down, you can see the date, the amount, and the reason for every settlement payment that was made. You can also see that the $1.779 billion amount is spread across 6,758 individual settlements. That means each victim who brought a lawsuit settled for an average payment of $263,000. Imagine the positive economic impact on our communities and the pressure it would put on the system to change if every time a police officer violated a black person's rights, his department was forced to pay out $263,000 in compensation. That is why this channel stresses the importance of outfitting your vehicle with audio-video Bluetooth cameras and always keeping a certain amount of funds set aside solely for the purpose of hiring a lawyer should you need one quickly. Now let's look at View by Officer. Undercover Officer C238 has been sued 74 times, and across those lawsuits has cost the city over $2.5 million in settlement payments alone. Officer number 2 here, Milton Pinero, has been sued 33 times and has cost the city about $1.4 million. Now let's scroll down and see why they were sued. As you can see, for every single suit, the description is unclassified allegations of misconduct. We can go to any city and look at any officer with multiple lawsuits. For example, I'll click on Chicago next. And the result will be the same. It will almost always say unclassified allegations of misconduct. That means that the police paid the victim cash before the case got close to trial, because they didn't want the public to know what their officer had done. It also means that the cops who more frequently and openly violate the rights of black people, or those officers who cannot help but break protocol, get to remain on the force. This provides an economic opportunity for black people. The best way to get the worst cops to reveal themselves during an unlawful traffic stop or arrest is by pretending to be ignorant of your rights, and also by appearing to be impoverished. The cops that employ these illegal tactics prey on society's most vulnerable, and historically in this country, the most vulnerable are by and large black people. To put it simply, if every black person in America set aside money to bring a civil lawsuit every single time their rights were violated by the police, not only would an enormous amount of wealth flow out of police departments and into black households, but eventually the system would be unable to sustain itself in its present form. Police departments would realize that dumb and racist cops were simply costing them too much money, and they would be forced to change the ways that they police black people. I've already shown you that with strategic training and concerted effort, there is an opportunity for black Americans to make millions of dollars suing police departments when officers violate their rights. In order for this strategy to work, we need to know exactly how to respond when officers are guilty of misconduct or trying to execute an unlawful arrest.
For those who can afford more risk, the best way to get a cop to expose himself is to act ignorant of the law and impoverished, when in fact you are not. As I explained earlier, if the cop feels that you are vulnerable, he will break protocol less cautiously and violate your rights more callously.
But let's talk about another topic. What should you do if you win a settlement against the police and are awarded hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in damages?
It's crazy because I was just outside the hotel today and this guy ran up on me. He's like, yo, I love y'all. He started talking. He's like, yo, I was talking to this Jewish guy one time and he told me, you see this dollar? He's like, yeah. He's like, you'll never have this dollar. And he was like, he thought it was a racial thing, but then he broke it down to him. He said, look, when I spend this dollar, I'm spending it at a Jewish restaurant, and they're gonna go to a Jewish dry clean. They're gonna put it in a Jewish bank. He was like, "You're never gonna see this dollar because it's never gonna leave our community."
That's a fact.
And they say the black dollar leaves the community, I think, within 6 minutes or something like that. Some crazy like stat. They say the black dollar leaves the community, I think, within 6 minutes or something like that. Some crazy like stat. How you view yourself is extremely important. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like if you don't view yourself as worthy, then you're not gonna do business with each other. Because if you're looking at somebody like a nigga, you're gonna treat him like a nigga.
Right.
If I'm looking at you as my brother, I'm gonna treat you like my brother.
Right.
So it's like, all right, if I see you in a certain light, I'm gonna be enthusiastic about spending money with you. And it's not charity. Like we gotta get out of that as well. Like if I'm supporting a business, it's because I genuinely want to support the business. Because I ain't have to tell you that you have to support Mercedes.
As you heard, new wealth leaves the black community in America faster than any other group's money leaves their community. So the question of what to do with this potential wealth is important. Otherwise, it won't necessarily improve life for black people and their families. The rest of this video will answer the following question. What is the first thing you should do if you win a large financial settlement? My answer to this question is that you should immediately get a passport for yourself, for every single member of your household, and for every single member of your entire extended family. You could pay the fees for 30 people to get passports for only a few $1,000s, and that is a tiny cost compared to the benefit this will create. There's a lot of reasons why you should do this. In fact, thinking of all the reasons why you should get a passport reminded me of an interview I saw Tony Yayo do with Vlad a while back. I couldn't remember all the details, so I called this industry insider I know, Larry Just, who used to work with some people close to his camp.
When you hear them mention passports, leaving the country on fake passports, I never knew, in all my years, I've never encountered a fake passport. I've definitely never procured one for anybody. A fake passport, I took that to mean a passport that isn't yours. And those, I will say, those do work. All you need is a blood relative or close friend with a clean record, like no criminal history, who looks somewhat similar. And if you're black during the time when we were, you didn't have to look that similar. Or you find a willing doppelganger. But I've known a number of people who have left the country just to avoid prosecution. The smart ones, they leave before they're indicted. But some have skipped bail and just never. Oh, Tony Yayo, remember from G Unit with 50 Cent? He did that. He jumped bail.
I remember him talking about that on Vlad.
And he went on tour with 50 Cent overseas and Eminem, and it worked. It worked. In fact, it worked out so well for him that later, when he did his time and got released, he came back the next day to meet with his PO or whatever. He brought his brother's passport with him and got resentenced. So his brother's passport worked so well.
Now, we're not going to get into Tony Yayo's situation, but this is what I want you to take away from that. Tony Yayo caught a charge and had a warrant out for his arrest. And just because his brother had a passport, which he used, he was able to travel the world outside of America, doing shows with 50 Cent and Eminem and touring and making money for 3 years. Eventually he was arrested, but only after he returned, after he set foot back in America. Now that was just a little side note, but what I want everybody to understand is how important it is for every black person who gets an unexpected large windfall of cash to immediately get their passport and spend some time in Africa. Nothing has to be permanent, and you can come back to America whenever you want. But I'm willing to bet that most people won't come back to America once they experience life with true freedom. First of all, it's easy to blow $1 million in America when it comes out of nowhere. There are numerous people trying to get you out of your money. You will find that in Africa, your money goes a lot farther, and you will start to feel a lot better. Part of the reason I have the perspective on policing in America that I do is because my whole life, first as a kid, then as a business owner, I have been flying back and forth between Africa and have spent many years there. After living in Africa, you start to no longer even see the police in America as people you need to hate because they're out to get you. Once you have the clarity of thought that comes with the pure freedom of living in a black country, you start to see the police in America as people who, due to their low thinking ability and unfortunate position in life, are constantly giving you an opportunity to come up on some big money. You can live like a king in Africa, and the time that you spend there will change your perspective in a way that allows you to be better able to help and advise your friends and family members in America. Also, by going to Africa right after you win your settlement, you prevent yourself from spending your money too quickly and putting it right back into the hands of white people and out of your community for good. It's better to spend it in the motherland. I'll end the video with this final statement. I don't hate the police. I don't even dislike them. Hating the police is unproductive. For example, say you go to work and one of your colleagues, Jeff, shows up to the office with a Glock 19. Let's say Jeff then shoots you with his Glock 19. Hating the police is like hating Glock 19s, like being filled with rage every time you see a Glock 19 and just wanting to run up to it and dismantle it. You live in a world with Glock 19s. Same with hating the system. No other first world country on the planet has a penal system like ours. Everyone knows it doesn't work and never worked, but it's not going anywhere. And so the correct response isn't to be mad at it, it's to get some money out of it while it's here. Thank you for tuning in to another unlawful arrest prevention video. On this channel, we analyze crowdsourced videos of traffic stops and arrests in order to educate citizens on the ways that law enforcement officers may break legal protocol. The more you simulate these interactions in your head, the better prepared you will be should a cop try to unlawfully arrest or detain you. If you would like to submit a video or need help finding representation in your state, please contact us on unlawfularrestprevention.org or email us at uap@unlawfularrestprevention.org. With the trap boys in a month, you gon' be thriving. Never let a good soldier waste in the pen. I can send him overseas to be of service to his kin. I'll never let a strong mind waste in a cell. I can fly him overseas to improve upon himself. I'll never let one of mine fight against the justice. I can send him overseas to go fight along his brothers. Never let my youngin' be subject to these laws. Flee to Africa and go and get your 3 heroic D's off.